What's up, everybody? I'm Mckenty. This is my second channel, and this is your home for my Twitch highlights and my podcast. So if you like this and you want to see more of that and you want to join the live streams, there's a link to that in the description of this video. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is this whole idea of re-recording albums. Taylor Swift, of course, is the poster child. She's not a child. She's the poster person for this. She said, enough of this. I'm going to re-record my entire back catalog, re-release it one album at a time, and I'm going to tell all my fans to listen to my new re-recorded versions rather than the old ones. So far, that has been successful for her. Like, I saw that she just came out with the re-recorded version of Red the other day, which was, I think, like her biggest kind of breakthrough album when she went from being just a country artist to being like a pop artist. And that's like the highest charting debut on Spotify for a female artist ever, apparently. So seems to be working out well for her. But it kind of raises some larger questions. As it says here, Taylor Swift's label reportedly set stricter guidelines for re-recordings. I think it's important to kind of understand the reasons why she did this versus why other people might do it. So for her, this is basically to spite her label. So her goal was to re-record the versions as closely as possible to the original versions, to just basically be a substitute. So hey, the new version sounds exactly the same as the old version, except you're supporting me by listening to it, so don't listen to the old one, listen to the new one. So her intent was to reproduce the old songs as closely as possible. Here is one example. You can judge for yourself. This is We're Never Ever Getting Back Together, which happens to be one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs. I am a fan of Taylor Swift, of her music. I don't care for her too much as a human, but I like her music. This is the original from 2012.
Baby, I miss you and I swear I'm gonna change. Trust me.
I love this song. 10 out of 10 song. Here's the new version.
We called it off again last night, but never ever.
It's very, very close to 99% of people. They wouldn't know the difference between the song if it was playing. So I think she did a good job of that. Her goals for this particular project are a little bit different than most people's. Like I said, she just wants to recreate the original songs, only now she owns them instead of the label. But for most of the artists in our world, it's a little bit different. For most bands in the rock and metal kind of world, they want to re-record stuff because they think they can do a better job than when they originally recorded it. So they may have done it at the beginning of their career when they had no money and they didn't have a good producer. And so they're like, man, those old songs are pretty good, but that album sounds like shit. We should redo it. So I wanted to look at a couple examples of that and see if that's true, because I don't actually think it is. I think the majority of the time, in fact, pretty much always, the band ends up redoing it and it is quote unquote better, but there's something about it that's lost because any recording is a snapshot of a given moment in time and it's impossible to recreate that no matter how hard you try. Like, you just can't. So let's look at a couple examples. This is A Day to Remember, and Their Name Was Treason, which is their first album. They re-recorded this one in 2010, I think it was. Here's the original version. And they were probably like 18 or something when they did this originally. So that's the original version. Not great, but a lot of people love that album, again, because it was a moment in time. Here's the new version. It's better, but does anybody choose to listen to this version even though it's better? I don't think they do. Everyone knows it's quote unquote better. But who's going to choose to listen to the re-recorded version instead of the original? You're not. You're going to listen to the original. Suicidal Tendencies is another example that was one of the first ones. This is the original version from 1981, I think.
I go, no, it's okay, you know. I'll figure it out. Just leave me alone. I'll figure it out, you know. I'm not taking.
So here's the re-recording.
Keep on bugging me, and it builds up inside. It builds up inside.
Way cleaner, way more metal.
Say the way what you did is either way.
It's got Robert Trujillo on bass, who's an amazing bassist.
And it's two chins, and it was the only solution to giving it a perfection of protecting from the enemy myself.
Objectively, it's a better recording. They're obviously far better players, but it's missing that something. This is Ice Nine Kills. This is their album from 2010. Safe is Just a Shadow, which is one of their first kind of real full-on metalcore albums. It's not a bad recording, but it's not great. New album coming summer 2010. It's vocals are a little rough, which I think they would agree with, which is why they re-recorded it. Let's listen to the new version. Way better, right? This is way better than the original. I think everyone would agree on that. It feels unnecessary to me. Of all the things that a band could be doing with their time and energy and money, re-recording an album from a couple years ago, to me, seems like a waste. One of the worst examples of this is In Flames. I have no idea why they re-recorded this, because this song, Clayman, is still to this day held up as one of the best examples of melodic death metal production. And this is the old version. Let's listen to it. Still sounds great to me. This is the re-recording, which, spoiler warning, sounds like shit. Like, listen to the drums. This sounds like a demo. I don't know why they would have done that, but in any case, the first question to ask is like, does this make sense from a creative perspective? If you have the opportunity to redo a song or an album later on in your career because you know you can do better now, should you do it? I would say no. It's very rare that people are like, oh, thank God, I'm so glad you redid that classic album. I'm never going to listen to the old one again. I'm only going to listen to the new one because the drums sound better. No, they're going to listen to the old one because it's not about having perfect production. It's about capturing a moment in time. That's what people respond to. You just need to sort of accept that, like, yes, that album from 10 years ago, you probably could do a better job of it now, but nobody's asking for it. Nobody wants it. Put your time, energy, and money into making something new. That's what I think. The next question is, does it make sense from a business perspective? Again, I would say no. You might think, oh, well, Taylor did it, I should do it too. I think that's a terrible idea, and I'll tell you why. The entire reason that she was doing this is basically to spite other people in the industry. She just wanted to say fuck you to Scooter Braun and her old label, Big Machine Records. And maybe she can get away with that because, again, Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift. But think about this. The way a record label works is they are investing in you, the artist, with the hope that that investment will pay off, because most of them don't. You know, go look at even a major label. They invest in 100 artists, and of those 100 artists, you know, look at their roster, 90 of them you've never heard of. And they hope that the 10 that pay off end up being so big that it pays for the 90 who flopped. And so they need to recoup their investment on the small number who do make it big. If they get the idea that you are one of these people where if you decide you don't like the terms of the contract that you signed, that you're just going to go turn around and go, well, fuck you, I'm just going to re-record everything to burn you, I'm not going to want to work with that person. There's always disagreements in business. And if somebody's just going to, like, you know, go scorched earth, essentially what Taylor Swift is trying to do is destroy the value of the investment that Big Machine Records made. And if she wants to do that, fine. But that's Taylor Swift. She can play hardball. You can't. Because no matter what she does, people will want to work with her. She sells millions of tickets. She can do whatever the fuck she wants. She's already rich. But think about if you're a smaller artist. Who's going to want to work with you? They're going to be like, that band that re-recorded their shit because they got into an argument with their label, what if we're next? They don't want to deal with that. So it's going to make you seem like a difficult person. And as for labels changing their contracts, they have to, because otherwise more people are going to do this. And they're going to lose their ass because they invested all this money in producing and marketing an album. And then if the artist decides they aren't happy for whatever reason, they're just going to turn around and re-record it because they're pissed off at you now. A label is essentially just the same as venture capitalists. They're just investing in you in the hopes that you become successful. And if you do things to deliberately torpedo the value of that investment, people in the industry are not going to want to work with you. And for good reason, because you're trouble. A lot of people are going to get the wrong idea here. They're going to think that because Taylor Swift did it, that they can go play hardball with their label too, and they can't. If you do want to do it, go for it. You know, it's certainly within your rights. Just don't be surprised if it blows up in your face. So those are my thoughts on Taylor Swift in particular and on the idea of re-recording albums in general. I just think it's a bad idea creatively. I think artists are almost always better off just moving on with their career and doing something else rather than trying to redo something in the past. And I think from a business perspective, for Taylor Swift, it's going to work. From a business perspective, for most artists, I think it's a bad idea.